could call it life. See it as a fight or as a gift. You could call it circumstance or call it magic. These are the days we've been given. What will you do with each of them? What will you do with your one wild life? Break the rise and fall. Go on, feel it all. I wanna feel it all. Love the rise and fall. Go on, feel it all. I wanna feel it all. Oh, see it as a loss or as a chance. Feel it all. Oh, feel it all. 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 Go on, feel it all.
Well, hello everyone and happy Easter to you. My name is Matt, if I don't know you. Thank you so much for tuning in. As a guy that's been doing church stuff for a long time, I gotta say this is one of the weirdest, most interesting things that I've ever experienced. I am self-isolated right now, all by myself, and I'm trying to run the mothership with comments and a talk and the technology to stream and all of that stuff. So all that to say, if there are hiccups in the process, I'm sorry. I'm trying my best. But ultimately, we're so excited that you're here. Want to let you know a little bit about what you are in store for. And our hope is that more than just sitting back and watching this thing, which you're more than welcome to do, that you would feel free to participate, to comment, which we've already got a lot of comments coming in. So hello, everybody. Thanks for being so kind and saying hi to people. We're so glad that you are a part of this. We also, quick poll, just curious, how many of you are actually dressed up a little bit, put a collared shirt on for the first time in probably 2 weeks for me, because there's just been a lot of t-shirts and sweatshirts around my house, and even when I come to work, that's what I'm doing. So that might be the case for you. This could be your first Easter in sweats, and that's a beautiful thing if it's taking place. But maybe some of you decided to get a little dressed up like I did to try and celebrate this holiday. So feel free to let us know whatever it is that you are choosing to partake in when it comes to your clothing, because we're just excited that you are a part of this. Hey, before we jump into it, one of the things that we love to do at CMYK is to celebrate the work of art. That art is our opportunity to take what's happening inside and around us and to create out of that. And we believe art is found in all of its forms, whether it's music or painting, whether it's parenting or spreadsheets, whatever it is, our opportunity to take what's happening in and around us and to create, pursue beauty out of that is one of our most significant works as CMYK. And I am so excited that this morning I put a request out there for one of my friends, Parker Brown, and your friend, to see if he was creating anything in the midst of what's been happening with COVID-19 and all of us self-isolating. It's a different time that we are in for sure. And so I asked Parker, hey man, are you creating anything? You working on anything? And he said yes. And he decided to record a video of him playing a brand new Parker Brown song. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a world premiere. And I got to say, when I heard this song, it's so great, not only lyrically, but when we think about the fact that it's Easter morning and it's cold and it's snowy, the feel and the tone of what's happening with this music, it just puts me in a good place. And so we're going to take a minute to watch this song. Again, ladies and gentlemen, worldwide premiere. He just finished this song. And so we're so excited and so honored not only to have Parker and his family as a part of this community, but that he would continue to bring his voice and creativity to it, as we hope all of you are, because that's what makes this thing CMYK, CMYK. When we all bring our individual parts, pieces, stories, lives, and voices, and we see beauty created out of that. So sit back, enjoy this Parker Brown creation.
All that glitters in the moment is not gold before it's through. When the last curtain falls and the dust of it all will show you the most true. Friendly humans passing under some universal truth, keep pointed guns under coats in the hopes that their most tragic dreams come true. In these lonely little moments when we haven't got a clue, and the state of the world seems to swallow us whole, there's nothing we can do but sing from every window, shout from all the roofs, keep your lamps trimmed and burning, nothing more to do. All the ages waiting for times like these to prove that open hearts will play their parts and love will make it through. Love will be a shoulder to lean on when hard times come through. Fold your houses of cards and prepare for the call that love will get us, love will get us, love will get us through.
Well, there you go. Is that not incredible and beautiful on so many levels? Thank you, Parker, for sharing in your art and your work and what you are doing. I see some incredible comments. Thanks so much for commenting. I love the fact that Mark Knits, you're wearing a cardigan right now, because that's kind of a thing that on a holiday, you got to put a cardigan on because it dresses up anything that you're wearing. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm glad you are doing it as well. Some of you are in PJs and t-shirts. Some of you have some dressed up kids as well. And that is so awesome and beautiful. So excited to be with all of you this morning. Hey, if you've been a regular part of CMYK or ever attended any of our gatherings, you know a consistent piece to our gatherings, a consistent piece to our spiritual work is to do this thing called the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer is this invitation for us to, yes, recite some 2,000-year-old words, but more than that, to center ourselves on what's happening here now in this moment, more than just reflecting on an old prayer, and to also point ourselves towards what could be. This is the prayer that Jesus taught his disciples to pray. And for us as a community, we regularly, when we gather, come around this prayer and speak these words aloud together. Now, I got to be honest. I'm not sure what situation you are in. Some of you might be all by yourself. It would be the most awkward thing for you by yourself to speak this out loud. That's fine. Some of you might be around people and it might feel comfortable. It might feel right and true in this moment to recite this prayer aloud together. But wherever you are and whatever's going on, our hope is that you would spend a moment to breathe deep, to center yourselves here in this moment, and to reflect on, recite, and pray these words together. So I am going to pray the prayer out loud. I am by myself, but I invite you to do whatever it is feels right and true and comfortable for you. This is the Lord's Prayer. I invite you to pray with me. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Would your kingdom come, and would your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And now, wherever you are, and whoever's around you, I invite you to take 2 to 3 deep breaths. This is adults, this is kids watching, everybody. Let's breathe deep, be present here in this moment together. Well, thank you so much for humoring me in that. I'm not quite sure what was happening on your end, but I was working hard to just be a part of this with you. Today, we're talking about this thing called the new normal. Now, the new normal is something that we're going to get into, but before we jump into that, we do need to recognize, as it's been mentioned a couple times already, we probably have a lot of kids watching this as well with their families and their parents, and we just want to say, CMYK kids, we miss you. We love gathering on Sundays, and we love getting to see all the heart, energy, life that you bring. We are so grateful. Kids, whatever age you are, that your voice and your energy is a part of creating beauty within this community. We can't wait to be back together someday, to see all of you, and to continue to spend time together. As kids are watching this, we also want to recognize the fact that many times the idea of sitting down and listening to someone talk for an extended period of time sounds like the most boring thing possible for your Easter Sunday. And so kids, you are here, and we understand the fact that this might not be the greatest thing for you to do over the next few minutes. So what we've done, hopefully you received our email, but we have provided some different coloring sheets and activity sheets that you are more than welcome to go download if you haven't printed those off already. You can find the link for that in the description below this video, so feel free to grab those. And kids, we just want to invite you to continue to be a part of this community, and hopefully you can find some joy and energy in life by doing some puzzles or doing some coloring as well. And maybe you're an adult that you're in the same place and like, oh, I've got to listen to this guy. I get it. There are some coloring sheets. Feel free to grab one of those and have a great time. But this morning, we're talking about this thing known as the new normal. The reality is not only is this an interesting and different kind of CMYK gathering because of the fact of what's happening with social distancing, but more than just church services and more than just religious gatherings on one of the biggest holidays of the year being affected. The reality is all of our lives have been impacted in one way or another. And for some of you, potentially these last couple weeks have been a sort of, as a friend of mine was calling it earlier this week, a sort of heaven for you. That you are the introverted type. You love just being by yourself. That's what fills your tank and energy. And the thought of going out at night, the thought of having to see other people, all those kinds of things, that's something you don't long for or look forward to at all. And so for you, this is a little bit of like, this is pretty nice. This is pretty great. I wonder how long this is going to go. But the reality for most of us potentially is that this is not a type of heaven, and it could actually be a type of hell, if you will. That you are somebody that is potentially energized, your tank is filled by seeing other people, by interacting with other people. That one of the things that fills your tank the most is being able to go out to your favorite restaurant and have a great meal. And that's not a thing right now. To be able to go enjoy entertainment, whether it's live music or film, and you are not able to do that right now. For some of you, there is this drain that is taking place in your life because you are missing that human interaction and that social connection, and this feels like hell. For others of us, potentially you watching it this morning, there is more of a literal sense of what this hell has looked like for you. because so many people have lost their jobs. So many people are in a place and state of anxiety, unsure of what's happening and what's going to come and what's going to happen. There's financial unrest. There's economic unrest taking place. And there is this hell, this experience that you're going through, and you don't like it. What I find fascinating about wherever you are in that spectrum, because we're all on that spectrum on one level or another, is that we all hope and we all believe that this is not the end, that there's something else that's coming after this, even though we might not know what it is. And what I find fascinating about that reality is it so mirrors everything that we are here to celebrate and talk about this morning when it comes to this concept of Easter. That Easter is this holiday, this tradition within Christianity where we look at, we remember, we celebrate the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ and what that means for our lives here and now in 2020. That we have experienced a sense of death, that there was normal life before, and this normal life is now gone. Many of us were anticipating it potentially when we were watching in February and early March. We were seeing what was taking place over in China or taking place in Italy. And we were anticipating, okay, it seems like things are not going to go the way that they normally go. They postponed the NBA basketball season. I was watching a basketball game the night that they postponed it and they just stopped playing. And it was like, what's happening? Now, obviously that's silly from the standpoint of it's just basketball, but we all experienced that on one level or another, that we watched these things go through a process, and what was once normal is now gone. There's also a sense of burial when it comes to these things as well. The burial is after the death comes. So after things have happened culturally, things have happened relationally, things have happened with your job, things have happened with your economics, that you find yourself in this state of burial where you're in the ground, the death has come, the change is there, and now we're in this place of wondering, okay, how long am I here and what does this look like? What I find fascinating about this is where we typically talk about death, burial, and resurrection on Easter and how it applies to our life. Yes, this is something that is all over the place in our culture right now, that it's not just specific to maybe one idea or one thought, death, burial, and resurrection, but it's rampant in our entire lives, that a shift has happened. This death has taken place. Normal is no longer found, and there is now this shift. For many of us, it's a shift in our time. Our time is no longer spent the way that it used to be spent. Things have shifted. And so we're not able to work like we used to be able to work. We're no longer able to go and do the things that we love to go and do. On top of that, there is a shift in our culture that's taken place. And this shift is something that can be incredibly hard because we're seeing more and more potential fighting, this side versus this side, this idea versus this idea, this belief versus that belief of what's really going on and what should we really do and how do we really respond to this, how long is going to happen. There's been a cultural shift in our conversation that we don't go anywhere. We don't look at anything news related without some sort of report of how many cases have been reported, how many deaths have been reported, and it's something we're talking about over and over and over and over again. How many medical supplies are out there? There's a cultural shift in our conversation that we're seeing take place. What we used to talk about, what we used to gather around and joke around and have conversations about is just gone, it seems like. And now there's this shift that we're talking about this. But on top of all of that, I think for many of us, we're experiencing some sort of internal shift. It's a shift in how we view ourselves. For some of us parents, it's, I'm not a teacher. And here are my kids, and I'm responsible to take care of and to grow and develop and nurture my kids in a way that I maybe was always supposed to be a part of the equation, but it definitely hasn't. And there's been this internal shift. There's an internal shift in that I'm an extrovert, and I'm no longer able to experience this. This death has come. The normal is gone, and there's been this shift to here we are in this state of burial. It's in this place that many of us, we look at the news articles, we scroll through our phones, and we're asking ourselves the question, how long is this going to last? And on top of that, what is this going to look like when all is said and done? When things go back to normal and the shift that we've experienced goes away, what is it going to look like? Is this shift forever? Is this shift for the next couple months? Is it for the next 18 months? Is there something that's permanently going to get stuck in our culture and in our lives that we're going to see from here on out? Death, burial. But we're here on Easter because we believe that there's this thing called resurrection, new life, hope in something more. And what I find fascinating, particularly about this Christian account of this idea of death, burial, and resurrection, is that it's not the typical kind of resurrection that maybe many of us would anticipate in moments like this, looking at our lives dealing with COVID-19. Particularly when we look at the story that's found in John chapter 20. This is a moment in the story where Jesus has died, he's been crucified, and he's buried in a tomb. And this is where we pick up the story in John chapter 20. It says, "Now on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early, while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, 'They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him.'" Now, there's something interesting happening with the story that I find fascinating. So Mary experiences something that she is culturally going to the tomb in this moment. It's expected culturally that after a few days that she would go and do this. She goes to visit the tomb, and she finds that the stone has been rolled away, and it freaks her out. And it freaks her out culturally because there are these things known as tomb robbers or grave robbers, people that would break into tombs and take anything of value out of the tomb. So she experiences this and says, "Oh no, the worst has happened. The thing that I came to do for Jesus in his burial, I can no longer do, and there have been robbers. Thieves have taken hold of the story." So she runs and tells these two disciples. Now, Peter is a pretty famous, popular disciple, if you will, throughout history. Many of us have heard of him. And then there's this other disciple that we don't know the name of. We just know that he was the one whom Jesus loved. Now, most scholars and tradition tells us and points at the fact that this disciple is most likely John, potentially, the guy that potentially wrote this gospel and this book that we're reading. So I just love it that John is labeling himself as the one that Jesus loved. He doesn't give himself his name because it's like a humble brag, but he is here as well. So these two disciples interact with Mary. So then it says Peter went out with the other disciple, and they were going towards the tomb. And both of them were running together. But the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb. Now, this is totally just a side comment, but this just shows the fact that the scriptures are written by men, because here is this moment where this interaction is taking place, and there has to be this, value of the fact that, okay, Peter, historically, he's the guy that everybody talks about when it comes to church and the father of the church, the rock of the church, all these things. But I can beat him in a foot race, dude. You want to bring it on, bro? Like, I just love that this is thrown in. Yes, there are some potential implications of this, but on the surface, I just love the fact, yeah, of course this was written by a guy, because we've got to, just measure everything and say, hey, check it out. I'm faster than that guy. So it continues on. And stooping to look in, he saw the linen cloths lying there, but he did not go in. Then Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. And he saw the linen cloths lying there, and the face cloth, which had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen cloths, but folded up in a place by itself. So they're looking and they're experiencing the fact that he is gone. It says then, the other disciple who had reached the tomb first, again, just a little bit of a dig at Peter. Hey, buddy, I got there first. You just went into the tomb first. Historically, let's remember this, right? Also went in, and he saw and believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture, that he must rise from the dead. And then the disciples went back to their homes. So the disciples have this interaction with an empty tomb, and it says there's a level of belief, but they yet don't fully understand what's taking place. But this is not the end of the story. It says, but Mary, the person that interacted with from the beginning, Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. And as she wept, she stooped to look into the tomb. And she saw two angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had lain, one at the head and one at the feet. And they said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And she said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." Now, this is the state and the place that we find grief. That Mary has come to the tomb to try and interact with what once was. This Jesus, this person that she followed and put her hope and trust in. And she's coming to interact with his body, and his body is gone. And so this grieving is all of a sudden present all over again. This is the core of grief, is it not? That many of us have experienced. There was something that we had, a relationship that we had, a person that we had in our life, a family member, a friend, a job, a vision, whatever it is, and that thing is gone, and we're no longer able to interact with it on the level that we wanted to. And it's out of this that we find grief. And here Mary is in this incredible sense of grief. She is weeping because the one thing that she wanted to do, to interact with what once was, is no longer available to her. The body has gone. The story goes on and it says, having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing. But she did not know that it was Jesus. And Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Here again, Mary is in this state of grief. She's longing for what was. And then in this moment, Jesus is there. This resurrected Christ is there. Now, there's something about Jesus' appearance. There's something about this resurrection and this new life that's being found that Mary is not able to recognize and fully see and comprehend what's taking place. And she misses the fact that this is Jesus. We can speculate all we want about why or how she missed how this is Jesus. Did he get a new haircut? Is there a new robe that Jesus is wearing? Why did she not recognize it? But here's what I find so fascinating. Mary responds to Jesus in this moment by saying, "I'm still looking for him. I'm still looking for the body of what once was. Can you please tell me where it is so I can take him away?" This is what she's longing for, and this is what she's desiring. All the while, this resurrection, this new life is here right in front of her, but she's missing it because all she's looking for and all she's longing for is what once was. But there's this new thing that's happening. There's this new embodiment of Christ that she is unable to perceive and see in this moment. Here's why I find this so incredibly fascinating. That many of us, when we think about this COVID-19 pandemic and what's taking place, the thing that we easily move towards is longing to just get back to what was. Now, there's a lot of good reasons for us to hope for things to go back to normal, if you will. Yes, that's a good thing. But there's something about this process, I believe, when it comes to death, burial, and resurrection, that we have this instinct that thinks that resurrection, new life, and hope is the idea that it's all going to be reset to just like it was before we experienced the death and burial. And that's what resurrection is. And so that's what we anticipate. That's what we're hopeful for. But here in the story of Christ, in the story within Christianity, resurrection is not just a reset to go back to what once was, not a fighting for some historic idea, but it's a presence in this moment with something new and fresh. And the potential for all of us is that there's something new happening. There's new life found in this moment, but we, like Mary, all have the potential to miss it. And we miss it because we're so busy and we're so focused on just trying to get back to what was compared to being present and seeing what is actually happening. I love that in this text, Mary calls or assumes that Jesus is a gardener. A gardener in this state within culture is one of the lowest of the low, culturally speaking. And Mary assumes that this thing that's happening right in front of her is just a low, bottom feeder kind of event, not a big deal. I just need to get back to once was. All the while, this thing that she has written off as not that significant, not that important, is the thing that she's actually looking for and is the new life that all of this has been about from day one. So for me, when I think about this concept of resurrection, when I think about this normal that is gone, and this shift that has taken place in our time and our culture and how I see myself, I'm invited, and I believe that the resurrection story is an invitation to see new life here. Now, please hear me. Resurrection is not about a removal of all pain, of all suffering, of all struggle. All of your questions are answered and you have everything figured out. This is not the new life that's represented in the scriptures at all with any kind of honest reading. And this is not an honest representation of resurrection in our own lives today. That new life does not mean an absence of those things, but it's a presence in the midst of those things to be able to see something good, true, and beautiful. The divine presence, life, Christ. And so for me, when I think about this time shift that we've experienced, how many of us in a time shift, yes, it's been hard and it's been difficult at different times, but how many of us are experiencing a connection with people in our homes on a level that maybe we haven't for years? My wife, Kate, and I, we are watching really trashy TV more than I ever have in my entire life. And I had this revelation a couple nights ago as we were watching, don't judge me, Love is Blind on Netflix. Okay, I just said it. I just outed myself. Yes, I watched the whole season, and yes, I did get a little caught up in it. And Jessica has some issues. Let's just say that. All that to say, I found myself watching this show and realizing I haven't done this with my wife since her and I were dating. Because when we were dating, all we wanted to do was hang out with each other as much as we could. So we would just hang out and watch trashy TV. And here we are in this moment where I've spent the last 13 plus years of my life continually being so busy and so focused on so many other things and disregarding this idea that I could just spend time with my wife because I have so many other things I need to accomplish and do. So there's a connection that's happening. There's a level of rest potentially that some of you are experiencing. This time shift has brought rest. I've talked to some of you and you say you're more rested than you have been in years. There's new life happening here in this moment. For some of us, it's an ability to spend time on things that we've always wanted to. For others of us, it's a change in relationship interactions because our time is no longer spent just around people and all these proximity relationships that maybe we're finding ourselves as to have this invitation to be intentional with some relationships that really matter. There's new life here in the midst of this time shift. Yes, there's struggle, but there's something here. And if we just focus on what was, we miss the beauty, the resurrection of what's happening here in this moment. There's a cultural shift taking place. This is one of the most fascinating things for me. It's incredibly beautiful that a cultural shift has taken place where we as a society seem to care for and work to understand the needs of those most at risk in our world, our country, and in our city. That whether it's someone with age, that is up there in age, or someone that has health issues, someone in their economic status, that we culturally are responding to them in a way that is incredibly beautiful, more than we typically did before this happening. There's new life taking place. I mean, what's taking place at 8 p.m. and people stepping outside their homes and howling for essential workers and for our medical workers on the front lines, just saying, we see you, we're for you, and we're with you, and I'm gonna to let everybody know. As silly as that might be, how beautiful of a cultural shift is that? That rather than celebrating all these things that we celebrated and we spent all our time and energy seeing and focusing on before, here we are in this moment seeing people that are essential, significant in their work and in their life, and we become grateful for them. That's an incredibly beautiful new life cultural shift that's taking place. Or how many of us there's this internal shift that's happening? And the internal shift is we used to be defined by our job. We used to be defined by our ability to go and make money or go and create and do and be. We used to be able to go and try to, get groups of people together. That's me, for just to be honest. I'm having this internal shift where my life, Matt Blakesley, revolves around gathering groups of people in rooms, whether it's through CMYK or through Art House and trying to get people to come to movies. And I'm not allowed to do that right now. And so there's this shift potentially that's taking place where I'm invited to just be, not do, not go make something of myself, and that validates Matt Blakesley. But here in this moment, I'm breathing deep and I'm validated, I'm loved, I'm known. There's something beautiful happening here. It's my belief that this resurrection invitation is missed if all we're looking for and all you and I are talking about and having conversations around is how do we get back to what was? Yes, there are some things that need to come back. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying where we are in the state of burial is where we're going to be forever. But I believe that just like Mary in this moment in the tomb experiencing Jesus, we have the potential to either label this beautiful new life that's taking place as a gardener. It's bottom feeder. It's no big deal. Why bother? Just get back to what was. Or we have our eyes opened. We breathe deep and we see there's something here in this moment, and we don't want to miss it. So this is why we have this phrase in this statement, that we had a normal before. There's been a death, a burial, but there's a resurrection here present in this moment, I believe. And there's a resurrection that has the potential to come past this moment, depending upon how you and I choose to interpret what's going on. And it leads us to this question of what's your new normal? Now, that's a specific question because that's for you. We can't define what normal is going to be for us as a country, for us as a world. There's still a lot up in the air, and we just don't know, honestly. But my hope is, rather than living in a state of anxiety and a state of fear about all the things that we can't control in this place, that we are able to see this new life that's present here and now in this moment. Even the people that you're watching this stream with right now, that you would see and understand there's something so sacred and beautiful about the beating hearts in those chests, the breath in our lungs, and that we do not miss out on the life that is present within us and around us, and that we work to define and have conversations about, okay, what is this new normal going to look like? For me, those conversations have revolved around, what's my new normal when it comes to work habits? Yeah, I'm still working, and yeah, theater's going to open, and there's going to be a lot of work to do, for sure. But do I want to just reset and go back to what I was, or is there an opportunity to start to redefine new life, resurrection? What does Matt's work habits look like? When it comes to consuming and shopping, we're not able to do that on the level that we typically do because everything is shut down or we're just limited to our homes. And so what does it look like for Matt to consume? And how am I finding a new normal in the midst of that? Relationships and friendships, interacting with my kids, being around them all the time, being responsible for them on a level that I've always been responsible for them, but I just kind of, pushed them out the door to say, hey, it's their turn, and I'll see you in a few hours, that I'm invited to be a part of it. There'd be a new normal for how I interact with my kids. Taking care of our neighbors. Some of you are doing incredible work to just be aware of what's going on in your neighborhood. That this would be a new normal. It's not just this weird upset thing, but there's new life and resurrection here for how we see our neighbors and those immediately around us. Being aware of those most in need, or maybe most significantly for us with CMYK, what's the new normal when it comes to church and spiritual community? And we're going to spend just a little bit of a plug. We're going to spend the next few weeks talking about that. What does this look like over the next few months and years for us to figure out a new normal? I'm not saying that things are changing. We don't know, but that it's worth having the conversation of what is new that we're being invited into, because there are shifts taking place, and I don't want to be focused on we've just got to get back to what was, but that we are allowing ourselves to have conversations about what's good, true, and beautiful here that we carry into the new normal. So I ask you the question, what is your new normal? And I hope that this is okay, but Parker's song was just so beautiful, and I think it's worthy of it, to allow you just a little bit of a pause to think about that and process that before you jump into the next thing. I'm just going to play Parker's song again because we got to listen to it. And I would invite you to not only listen to it and experience it, thanks again, Parker, but that you would process and think through what is your new normal. Maybe there's something in the comments that you would want to throw down there as far as what it looks like for you, or this new life and resurrection that you're experiencing here and now in this moment.
All that glitters in the moment is not gold before it's through. When the last curtain falls and the dust of it all will show you the most true. Friendly humans passing under some universal truth, keep pointed guns under coats in the hopes that their most tragic dreams come true. In these lonely little moments when we haven't got a clue, and the state of the world seems to swallow us whole. There's nothing we can do but sing from every window, shout from all the roofs, keep your lamps trimmed and burning, nothing more to do. All the ages waiting for times like these to prove that open hearts will play their parts and love will make it through. And love will be a shoulder to lean on when hard times come through. Fold your houses of cards and prepare for the call that love will get us, love will get us, love will get us through.
Easter is a time for us to reflect on death, burial, and resurrection. And it's my hope that you would be one that is able to find new life wherever you are. I also want you to know this, that if for whatever reason you are in a place that is not okay, that is not comfortable, things are not in a state and where you are able to see any sort of new life, that you know that you are not alone. And there's a community, whatever your belief, wherever you are in life, that we desire to see you, to know you, and to embrace you, and to be a part of this journey in this life with you. That if there's a need that you have, whether it's financial, relational, whatever the need would be, that we as a community, as CMYK, we work to live out of this mentality that we have enough. You are not alone, and that you would see and sense and know that this morning. That you would see and sense and know that there is this divine presence, that Christ is here now in this moment. And it doesn't necessarily mean all pain and suffering is gone, but there is resurrection to be found for how you see and perceive the world around you and yourself in the midst of it. May you be somebody that does not miss out on what could be. I love you, and I'm so grateful to all of you for tuning in and checking this out, whether it was live or you're choosing to watch this recast, that it's going to be available on YouTube as well. Other than that, I hope you have a great Easter Sunday. I want to make sure that you know that we're going to be doing a couple different Zoom gatherings if you'd like to join us. So the kids gathering might be happening right now already, but we'd invite you to click on that link and allow our kids to just see one another and say hi and connect. And then on top of that, after a little bit, we're going to invite more of the CMYK community without all the kids. That will probably be a little more focused conversation, but it would just be great. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to try to, present anything, but just allowing us to see each other's faces, I think, is going to be a really beautiful thing. So I hope that you can join us. You can find the links for those in the description below. Again, if there's anything we can do for you, please reach out. Happy Easter, everybody. There is resurrection and new life to be found.
With the bomb strapped to his chest, with a bullhorn in her hand, they both bow their heads and pray to do God's will, fulfill the faith, and walk into the crowd. All the outsiders are wrong. If your questions don't belong, if your doubt is called a sin and you're not to search within, let it